All right. It was a bit of a strange movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, and when it was on Netflix or they have different ratings and it was rated like 2.5 stars. And I'm thinking, whoa, so in watching it, I'm thinking, I can see how people would say,
This is the
Sorry.
type of movie that some people really like and some people have challenge with, because it's a slow moving movie.
Very.
There's not a lot of dialogue to carry you along. You just have to kind of sit and watch and let it take you where it takes you, because it's got like thousands of years to cover. Right?
Yeah, when they go back at that one point to like the settlers. Yeah.
Back 100 or 200 years backwards, plus however many years forward it went into the skyscrapers.
Oh, right. Yeah, it did. That's right.
So it's an interesting movie, but of course the first question is, how did you see God in the midst of the movie?
That's a good question.
That's a hard question, because I kept on thinking about it ever since I watched it earlier this week. I'm thinking,
question for this one, isn't it? It definitely asks some of those existential questions, like what is the bound of existence? What's the bound of life? Where does self begin and end?
And why was the ghost hanging around?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Why was he hanging around, and why was he going back in time and forward in time? His wife wasn't even there anymore.
Right. So maybe it's partially answered by the next door neighbor ghost.
Oh, right. The next door neighbor ghost.
You know what I'm talking about? When he first of all sees in the windows, they're looking through the windows. And you remember the conversation that time? Let me see if I write it down. Very short. Who's there? It's me. Never mind. That was the whole conversation. Who's there? It's me. Never mind. Then the second conversation was not really even a conversation. It was just the neighbor ghost speaking. And that neighbor ghost appears just as the houses have both been destroyed. And they're both standing in the rubble, right? And the neighbor ghost says this: I don't think they're coming. And the shroud goes flat. Right? The sheet.
and you know what I saw in that moment when it went flat? Took me right back to the movie Coco.
Why?
Because forgotten. They didn't come back. Nobody,
yeah. That's in Coco. Yep.
On Wednesday morning, we had a discussion about what does that mean? Did they achieve, or did they just go into non-existence? Right? One of the places where at least there's a possibility for some of our gods speak was right after death, as he's walking through the hospital, and the light door opens up. And he's standing there looking at this light door, standing and looking, and you see that he's not going that way. And then it closes, and he turns to the left and walks down the hallway. Like it's almost an invitation. Come into the light. Move this direction. Why didn't he take that invitation? There's maybe another way of asking your question, Mary.
Yeah, why was he hanging around so long? I didn't understand what he was looking for. Or he was looking for an answer that he'd never found. That's how it felt to me.
So the other ghost thought someone was coming and finally decided nobody
was coming.
So what was this ghost, our ghost, waiting for?
At first I thought he was waiting for his wife to come back. And then how he got mad at that mom and the two kids, which made me mad.
Yeah.
That they
Yes.
were,
It should.
yeah, they were in this nice little happy place in their new home, and then, you know, he kind of ruined it for him. Why did he do that?
He majorly poltergeist them, doesn't he?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Right.
it was almost like he was mean. He was mean. You know, it felt like he was mean.
There's one other
It
time.
was a mean thing to do.
Yeah.
It was a mean thing to do.
There's
Right.
one other time that he caused things to fall, and that was right near the right. Okay, so when wife comes back from the date, and he causes the lights to flicker, and book falls off the shelf.
Oh, right. Yes, he did that. Yes.
Remember?
Right. Yes.
That was relatively minor compared to the poltergeist.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
It was. Yeah. It was like he was mad. He felt like he was mad.
But I think they're not unrelated. And I think they go to the core of what your issue is, Mary. Why did he stick around?
Yeah.
Do you remember the argument that they were having?
It was
Was
kind of
it-
like intention
It
was,
doesn't really show the argument so
do we
much. as the
move or
end of the
not?
argument.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
do we move or not?
Do we move
That
or
kind of
not was
argument?
kind of the argument, right?
Mhm.
And she says something like, this shouldn't be so hard. Later on, we find out that what they're talking about is moving or not moving. But at that point, he puts, after he says, can we talk about it tomorrow? Or she asked that, he puts the headphones on her, and there's a song that's singing. And do you remember did you hear what it was singing? Here's the
It
chorus.
was something that touched your heart.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure what it
Yeah.
touched. But let me read the chorus, and you can
Okay.
wanted her to hear these words, I think. Is my lover there? Are we breaking up? Did she find someone else and leave me alone? Is that why she's asking to leave? Because he's unsure of? And why won't he leave that place? I mean, the living man, not necessarily the ghost man, because you're right that later on he comes back and at least part of the issue is that he's happy and he doesn't want to leave that home.
Mhm.
But she does for some.
Yeah. She wants to leave, and then she leaves when he dies.
Uh-huh.
Instead of staying, she could have stayed, but she leaves.
Uh-huh. So maybe it's some combination of those is what I guess I'm saying. Is it her presence that he's trying to still feel even though she's left?
Well, definitely in the beginning, I thought that. I mean, definitely I thought he's waiting to connect with her again. He's like somehow waiting for that to happen.
Mhm.
But then obviously somebody else moves in, and you know, that's not happening. So why does he stick around? I guess I couldn't understand. I understand in the beginning why he stuck around, but then why did he keep sticking around?
Something did change after she leaves. Not immediately. The other family's there. He scares them, and then something changes. He begins doing something.
Well, he was scratching, trying to get into the wall.
He was
Right.
scratching, trying to get into the wall. So after she left, I think that became his new sense of purpose.
Because she hid notes. She
It's
said she used
notes.
to hide notes in the houses she lived in to feel like she was there.
Yeah, here's what she said. It was right at the beginning. When I was little, I used to move all the time. I used to fold little notes and fold them real tight and hide them so that if I ever went back, they'd be there waiting.
Okay.
They'd be there waiting.
And that's why I thought when they showed the Pioneer family and when the little girl hid the notes, I thought in reflection, maybe the wife really had been the legacy of that little girl's family.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. She did hide that note. Did you see when she hid that note?
Yes.
Under a,
Painting. No, not
Yes.
the girl, not the little girl, the
Oh.
wife.
oh,
She hid the note when she was painting. She slid it
Yes.
through that crack.
Yeah, and she painted over it.
Mhm.
And that's why he was scratching at it.
Trying to get it out.
Mhm.
And the note comes out of the crack twice. Did you see that?
Not as
No, no.
observant. I have to say I'm not as observant as you are. It comes out twice.
Yeah, first time it comes out and he's just pulling it out when the bulldozer runs through the front door.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Collapses around him. And he doesn't get to read the note because it all gets destroyed in that moment. Second time it comes out is right near the end.
Mhm.
When he pulls it out and he has it in his hand and the door opens to light. And he's looking at the note going, do I look at it or do I go out the door? Do I go to the light or do I read the note? Do I follow my obsession, I think, or do I? Did you see what he did?
He disappears.
He looked at the note and disappeared.
Right. He looks at the note and disappears. So what did the note say, or doesn't it matter?
You tell me, do our obsessions matter?
I
Or
really,
do
to
they
be
divert us
honest,
from something else?
I'll say I didn't understand the movie. I have to say I didn't understand the movie.
You know, movies
there
aren't
with
always
you.
to understand, they're to ask questions.
Well, I had a lot of questions.
So we don't necessarily know, is the light door heaven? Is the light door the good path? Is the light door what you want to do? Or is your job to follow the question that is unanswered in your life, whatever keeps him there in the house? I'm not trying to put a value, yes or no, on which is the better course necessarily. You know, the things we teach each other in most religions say, take the light path, go out that door. But is there existence? Taoists will tell you that there is no existence so much. And we define everything by our existence in Christianity, in most Western religions.
Mhm.
But what is true? Where was the goal achieved?
Was their goal?
Siri, what do you think? You haven't said anything.
Unmute, Siri.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the movie, so
Oh, you should
I
watch.
don't have a lot to contribute. But I didn't want to just not be here because we're a
Yeah.
small group and
Pick it
Mhm.
up from me and watch it, because it's an interesting film, because it does ask a lot of questions without really giving the answers. Mary, you're right to still have questions about it.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions and I felt like I should have been watching it with somebody.
Yeah. The difficulty with many religious movies is they're so busy trying to give answers that they ask very small questions to which there is an answer. or they answer the question, which may be a big question, in a very small way. This one, a lot of questions and didn't try to really answer them.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have a feeling it has something to do with the single largest piece of speaking. And that's when the party happened at the house. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly what was going on, what that party was, but that guy's sitting there and he just pontificates for 15 minutes, essentially asking a question about what is the thing that people will be remembered for. And there's no doubt that at least that's one of the motivations in life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How do I stay here after I'm gone? And that can be both in good ways or bad ways. What do I leave of wonder in the world that I'm remembered in some way or another? Or what do I leave that, how do I get to be eternal because I've left something behind? And he talked about Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, his last symphony, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if it just gets lost, essentially? How long are we going to remember Beethoven wrote that symphony? And is there a time when, whether civilization falls apart as he postulated, or for some other reason, maybe the tune remains, but Beethoven is forgotten? And when I hum a tune and I think I'm making it up, is it just because I've heard it somewhere and that person lives on, even though I can't put any kind of name to it? How do we live on? I mean, how do you think you're going to live on? The easy answer, of course, is our kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? They at least remember us, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. But at least they have some kind of memory of us.
And our friends and our family until everybody dies.
And that was part of his thing, is so you remember this generation and slightly less in the next generation.
Right.
But how many generations does it take till?
But unless you do something incredible, you know, like really significant in the world, you're not going to be remembered forever.
But there's
Does
one
that mean-
factor, there's
Go
one
ahead.
factor that used not to be a factor, which is that now we have videos and photographs and recordings of people. You know, I mean, I've got my mom's voicemail message on my phone, and once in a while I play that, you know, and she's been gone a few years. I've got my friend's voicemail message on my phone too,
Yeah,
and he's
you
been
get to
gone
see
even
that.
longer, you know, so and then there's video. I mean,
But
So-
what if they stop passing down the videos?
Yeah.
I
when
have
they-
videos of my kids and I have them right now, but I'll give them to them, you know, or leave them for them. But then will they pass them down to their kids, or will they just go, we'll just throw, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to live forever.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, I think they could live for a long time, really, because I mean, that's the way technology is now. And you know, like I had things on videotape. Well, I transferred them to CDs,
Mhm.
you know, or DVDs. I mean,
Right,
so
Now
you know, and
digital.
I didn't transfer everything,
right. No,
but I
we have,
kept some things around.
yeah, we have done that too. Like I was thinking about my dad. My dad really got into genealogy when he retired. And he worked up this, I mean, he really went back. And I mean, he went back on both sides of the family and did all this research, spent hours and made up all these charts. contacted some family in Germany, and him and my mom went there. And I mean, he came up, he's got books on, he passed away a couple years ago. He has books on it. He has pictures, you know, he's done a lot of work on it, and we do appreciate it. Okay, and I have a copy and my siblings have a copy, but how, and everyone in the family thinks it's great. I mean, he did family trees for my cousins and everything, but how far is that going to get passed down? Or at what point will people lose interest
Yeah.
in passing that
Or
book down?
they hold on and they say, look, somebody did all this work, so this is who my family is, but they don't remember your dad any longer as being the one who did it.
Right, right. And, you know, we'll pass it down and I'll pass it down but yeah, at some point, it's more real to me than it'd probably be to my kids
Mm-hmm.
and to their kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But also until they get to a certain age where those things do start to matter more.
Right.
That's true. They didn't matter to me when I was younger, for sure. But because we're not anybody famous, do you know what I mean? Nobody's going to read about us in a history book.
Yeah.
But that's okay, you know.
But is
But
that what
that's
makes you truly, is that really your lasting impression because somebody reads your name in a history book?
Or because you leave a great piece of music, or
Yeah.
you leave a great painting or a Van Gogh, or, you know.
Yeah.
Then you're remembered, passed down through time because you did this incredible work of art, or you were George Washington, or you know what I'm saying, unless you're somebody really famous, your legacy doesn't last as long as those people. But that's not why that's not what motivates me, or I'd be doing something to make myself famous.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I
have
mean?
So right after that great pontification by that man, 15 minutes of talking where you're
Yeah.
talking the whole time, his face and almost nothing else. You can kind of hear the party around him, but you're only seeing this face talking and asking all these questions and postulating how much we can't be remembered and everything. Right
Yeah.
after that is when the ghost goes and tries to pull the paper out of the wall. And he gets it halfway
And-
out and the bulldozer crashes in.
Well, I was wondering, did that party happen before he and his wife were in that house or after he and his wife were in that house? That conversation could have been before or after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was going to
let's-
share a legacy. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. We're talking about legacies, and there's a legacy I have, but my name is not attached to it. But I know it is a legacy that will be there for a long, long, long time. And that is many years ago, well, not that many years ago, a couple decades ago, I chaired a national ethics committee and for my profession, and my committee was given the task of writing the standards of practice, and that has only changed a tiny bit in those 20 years, and it's an accepted document across our profession. I mean, there was another, but that other organization adopted this one, and it was like, so there's my legacy. But you know, my thumbprint, I say, but my name's not attached to it, and I don't want my name attached to it because
Mm-hmm.
it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
So legacies don't have to be identified to a person.
The thing is you don't know how much your legacy goes on. One of the interesting things about being a first grade teacher, I taught first graders for 14 years, and you get followed by a second grade teacher. and a third grade teacher and a fourth grade teacher and a fifth. And maybe you're not remembered at all. Maybe you are. Maybe the kid remembers Mr. Wiltbank, but maybe the second grade teacher hits that kid in such a heart place that's the one that they remember, right? But it doesn't change what I did as that teacher, the foundation of reading or whatever it was that I gave to them, whether my name gets attached to it, may and may not have anything to do with the legacy. Is that enough? My ego wants to say, yeah, I remember the way you did this, or how we played this game, or we did, whatever. But is that truly my legacy?
Your
Well, I
legacy in that respect might be, I don't remember that teacher's name, but I didn't have another male teacher until I got to high school. So my first and last teachers were male. Or I don't remember his name, but I remember he loved us and we were always welcome, and we were always, he was there for us and wanted to help us. So sometimes it's might not be your name.
And the hard part is I don't know if you've noticed this, you don't get to control how people remember.
No,
Right?
right.
That's something I've definitely learned as I do memorial services, and you have people tell the stories about this person, which sometimes would not be necessarily what that person would want to have remembered, but it's what the person remembers. And sometimes if you sit around at those places and you talk to the family, one person will remember it one way and another person will put a different spin on it. Same story, but different angles, so to speak. And that could be just the position in the room, but it also could be the position in the family.
Well, make sure your favorite person that loves you a lot runs your memorial. That's what I say.
But one of the best things about a memorial, truthfully, is how we all come in seeing a person, and by hearing the stories of other people, our view of that person is expanded. Because suddenly I see through your eyes the same person I know, and I see that person larger than what my own view could have. And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's good because people do have many sides to them. So
unless, and maybe this is what the ghost was doing, he only had a very narrow definition of what he wanted her to be. And if he's searching for just that note that's going to tell him exactly who his wife was, that's going to hold the secret to everything about her, so he can't see all that bigger story. Maybe that's what it's about. Because as soon as he opens that paper and looks at whatever's there, read whatever's on it, he
whoosh, yeah, he's gone. Yeah, it did feel like he was searching for something, but I wasn't sure what he was searching for. He was searching for something.
But sometimes the search is hard for the person even to define, isn't it? Think about some of your searches. When I look back at my great spiritual spaces, I'm not certain I knew exactly what I was looking for. I was just trying to find it. I knew some of what I didn't want it to be. What I was rejecting, but I'm not certain I always knew what it was I was searching for. Because of that, this is an unsettling movie because it doesn't give you the answer to the questions like this, does it?
No, it doesn't. It makes you just,
Nope,
I
not
was
at all.
just like puzzled. When I got done watching it, I was puzzled. and going, I don't know. I didn't get that movie. I really didn't get that movie. That's what I
Right
would
there with
think.
you, Mary.
But I'm not certain that you're supposed to get this movie. You know, at the end, the wife asks him, kind of a continuation of the conversation that happened earlier in the movie, asks him, what is it you like about this house so much? And he says, history. It's got history.
Oh, that's true. I forgot he said that.
But
I
then
forgot
she
he said
answers,
that.
not as much as you think. So who's right in that moment? He felt more of the history. Maybe he felt that family that had died there somehow,
Maybe he felt all those. Yeah,
you know?
she didn't. It didn't feel like history.
Yeah. And is that what sometimes we call the presence of spirit, because we feel that larger story of that space? You know, like when I've gone to Machu Picchu, it's one of my holy spots, and because I feel something more
Mm-hmm.
than just me at that spot. When I go to the Io Valley and Maui, it's the same type of thing. There's just something that's there. So am I feeling that history? I don't know.
Well, you feel the history. You're tuning into the history.
Maybe. I mean,
I think.
it's the hard part is we don't have any way to really confirm that. You know, some people say Sedona is a very holy spot. Why? You know, what is it that some people feel there and other people just drive through and go, yeah, pretty valley? I don't know. What is it that happens?
Yeah. Why are there vortexes?
Why are there vortexes? Exactly right.
Well, there's native peoples also who are in connection with the spirits of a place.
Mm-hmm.
And they will go to that place in particular for certain ceremonies because of those particular spirits which live there. And so then they have, you know, mountains to which for them say are holy, like mountains that we've desecrated, some of them. And it's not something that you can just pick up and move somewhere else.
Right.
It's something that belongs there and lives there.
And do those spirits still live there? Are they wandering like the guy in the sheet on that space? Are they, when his sheet disappears, has he just sunk into the infrastructure of that space and remains as part of the integral part? I don't know, because some of those places certainly feel like they have an essence about them.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is that if I don't feel it, like the wife, it's really easy for me to just, what's the word? Despreciar, to not give price to it. I don't know what that word would be in English.
Value? What?
Value, maybe, you know, to devalue that space because I don't feel it for whatever reason.
Or if it's scary to feel it.
What if it's scary to feel it? It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, at least part of what this is saying is whatever husband felt there kept him bound to that spot. And I don't mean that in the negative that it might be. It might have been a negative, but something was holding him in that space.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Obviously, something was holding him in that space.
And did he ever find out why?
Did he ever find out why? I do think it's a movie that, as you watch it again, I think you'll see more to it.
Mhm.
So come and borrow it from me again, and keep the conversation kind of going in your head, because it's not one of those that carries you along on the arc of its narrative, or that gives you these surprising turns that make you want for more. It's one that you have to just kind of rest in and let it slowly float you down the river.
Mhm.
There's definitely no ahas in it.
Yeah. Right? The piano intrigues me, right? It plays often in the middle of this movie.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know what that meant.
Well, and then his connection to music.
His connection. And can I
That
say,
piano's always been there, but yeah.
yeah, from a production side, the music was immensely helpful. One of the best, what they did with music and the way they used it to set the scenes and to tell the story was incredible. That alone was worthwhile for me. And so as they mentioned, the instrument in the whole story, that piano, I know it has even more story than what I've discovered so far. But that's the hard part always about life, is something that I might just walk by. What kind of stories does that something have?
Mhm.
Like I have a file cabinet over here. It's an old wooden file cabinet, and I just love it. It's great. I've had it for a couple decades now, but it was old when I got it. What other stories does it have?
Mhm.
What was carried within its drawers?
Mhm.
I know what I've placed in it and all the valuable things I've put there, but what else?
Mhm. Yeah, I have a mandolin that was made in 1918,
Yeah.
and I kind of feel that way about it. I don't know. I got it in 2010,
Yeah.
but I have
Whose
have
fingers
no idea.
touched its strings?
Yes, I have no idea the history,
Yeah.
and I would love to know the history.
How did it inspire this, that, or the other thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the big soliloquy where the guy is talking for such a long time, and he's asking about existence, and I think I have this certain desire to have Jim live on, but is that the goal in life? Or is there something else that lives on, not my essence, but something that I share with other people? There's a story that's told about, to try to explain what it is that how we feel about life. And, in mortality, it's hard for me not to imagine life as Jim's life, what I experience, what I see. And it talks about how when the drop of water flows into the river, it gets lost, but maybe not completely lost. When the wave crashes, that drop is up in the air and has its own existence for a short moment, and then crashes into the sea and finds it's larger. But if I'm trying to still be that dot of water, am I defining myself by my smallest possible self instead of the larger definition of me?
Or the community of all those other drops that now make the ocean, the wave.
Is my best definition Jim, or are there better definitions of me? The good news is we don't have to define it completely. Go ahead, Mary.
But well, I mean, I always think of a person, most people are part of a community, you
Uh-huh.
know, different communities, your family community, your church community, your workplace community, whatever, there's all these different
It's you run around
communities.
within the neighborhood community.
Right, and you kind of are a part of that whole thing. Most people, unless you go off and live, what's that movie, Jeremiah Johnson? Unless you go live in the wilderness, and even he had a little bit of a community. But most people are parts of different communities, so you're not just a person, you're part of a whole community.
And at least part of what this asks is Jeremiah Johnson, when he goes out and lives by himself, is he devoid of community, or is he just devoid of other people around him? Because if you remember that movie, he certainly had a community of the nature and the space.
Yeah, no, he felt totally at home in nature.
And the ghost seemed to have a communal aspect with that house, that space.
That space, that's true.
So that even when he went back in time to the covered wagon, the story still connects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So go
are
ahead.
you the one that picked this movie, or did somebody else?
Somebody else did. Somebody else.
Somebody else in the movie
What I get
group.
to do is I get to pick which movies off of each person's list I want to put together. And so for that, I kind of got to choose it, but somebody else suggested this one.
I never put in suggestions, but you had so many great movies on that list that you sent, the original list.
Yes.
Some movies I'd seen, but a lot of movies I hadn't. So I figured whatever got picked.
Yeah. You know what that list, I call that, here's my favorite movie. All 347 movies. Here's my favorite.
Yeah, no, it's a great list. And I was even highlighted what ones I've seen, and then looked at it, and it was like, wow, there's a lot of these movies I haven't seen, and I'm sure they're really good if they're on Jim's list. So
What I'm certain of is if those are the only movies you ever watch, your life will be enhanced.
okay, well, there's a
lot of other good movies, don't get me wrong.
There's a bucket list in there then.
But you know how I've made all my lists is from other people's lists like that. So I went through some.
You've seen all those movies, right?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I haven't.
I own 5,000 plus movies, and I've watched
Mm-hmm.
all but just slightly around 100, right? Just under 100. I've made lists from the books that give a rating to all the movies that they know about, right? And I've gone through there and written down, here's the ones that get 4 stars and above. And I've made lists out of those and tried to watch all of those. I've tried to put together the lists of those that people talk about the most, and my goal is to watch them all. So the hard part is there's a few of them I can't quite find. So I walk around all the time with this list in my hand of the movies I still want to buy. Somebody says they're good movies, right? And it's a bunch of, there's a bunch of movies on that list, 221 still that I haven't been able to find. I haven't
Wow.
been able to find cheap enough that I want to buy them.
Oh, right. Like you could find them for $20 or something if you wanted.
Well, I wish some of them were only $20. There's some of them that are going for over 1,000.
Are you serious?
Whoa.
Yeah, I can probably tell you. Oh no, I don't have the prices on here. So, I say all that just because I think that all of that, these movies for me in some ways is part of what this movie is about. It's like, what's all that's legacy that's been handed on to me,
Mhm.
right? That is somebody's story, somebody's picture, somebody's way of living on, even though maybe I'll never have any clue who the photographer was, you know?
Or why somebody even thought about putting this movie, the story together, and, you know, that
That's right.
people might be interested in, you know, and then whoever invested their monies into the production of, wondering if it's ever going to make a dime. You know?
Sure. But in some ways, it's kind of like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It has this melody that somehow you remember. Right? And whether you remember the artist, there's an eternal nature to some of those things. That's the neat thing about life, about art, which maybe is the same thing, life and art. Right? So lots of good questions, huh?
Yeah, lots of good questions.
Not complete answers. So next
No.
week, we go to one of my favorite movies.
That's one of my favorites coming up too.
Somebody made me watch this years ago, and I've never been able to forget it, and I just love it. So next week, watch Delmer and the Boys, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Which is based on an old story, Ulysses. Of course, that's
Uh-huh.
one of the main characters in here is Ulysses, and it's a story of the Odyssey retold in the South. So
Yeah, it's really, really good. I love that movie, and I love the music in that movie.
it's incredible music, isn't it? So
Yes.
that's what we'll be watching next week. Thank you for your time today.
All right.
So
Thank you.
mind, I won't be here next Thursday night.
Okay,
So
all right.
we'll be the three of us.
So come and watch the movie and talk about it with me. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
I'm definitely watching.
All right.
Good night.
And